Well, hello there. I'm wanting to make a little video here, and the inspiration for this video is the question that I sometimes get asked, um, not all the time, but occasionally, from uh, people who are somewhat curious about what I do, or are actively looking themselves to get into working with draft horses. You know, maybe they have a small acreage in the country and they've toyed with the idea, dreamed about possibly getting a horse or a team of horses, but they have no practical experience. They've perhaps um, visited some place where they had horses, and it's been sort of a romantic vision of something they'd like to do, but they don't have anything concrete in mind. Um, Occasionally, you get somebody who's actually bought horses, but still has no concrete idea of what they want to do. So the question that sometimes get asked me is, why do you use horses? And then that, you know, why don't you just use tractors? You know, like everybody uses tractors. So, well, I do use tractors. I have tractors. And I've driven tractors. I've worked for other people, driven tractors, large tractors, you know, thousands of acres. And it's, I've experienced both sides of the agricultural and logging for that matter. So I call it living power as opposed to, you know, combustion power or mechanical power, living power. And so the question, you know, why don't you use tractors? Well, why do we do anything? You know, why do we walk to the store instead of driving our car? Well, we want to. We want to. You know, I want to go for a walk. You know, I need the exercise. And it's a beautiful day to go for a walk type of thing. You know, why do we do anything? Why do we play an instrument? Why do we read a book? Why do we, you name it. So the why is something that everybody has to determine for themselves. You know, why do we do? So the next sort of following up question is, well, after you answer the why do you do it? Well, then why do you have so many? Why do you need so many horses? You know, like I just want to get a horse or a team of horses, and this becomes a little more concrete. You know, less philosophical and more concrete. You know, well, what 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 do you want to do with your horses? You know, if you just want to use your horse or your team of horses on a purely recreational basis, once a week, go for a drive, and not, you have no plan of you know, it's a hobby. It's like model railroading, you know, or golfing. You know, you throw the clubs in the car, go to the golf course. It's the same thing. If you just want to look at it as a purely a hobby thing, as a means of enjoyment, to do for a recreational purpose, then it wouldn't make sense to own a great number of horses. But it's like, let's say you were going to open a taxi company or a trucking company, uh, and you're just one person. You say, well, I only need one car, or I only need one truck, or one trailer, or one, you know. Um, well, the reality is, in the world of mechanical things, and it's similar in all parts of life, you need spares. You need spares. And so when you have your one truck, and it's your pride and joy truck, but if you're an owner operator and you have one truck and your truck's down, and you have no spares, no backups, you can always, rent rent a truck for a day, but horses just work like that. And so, or taxi company. Let's say you're a one-car taxi company, and your car blows the engine. Well, for the time your car is down, that stretch of time, you're not making any money. Well, your car is sitting in the shop getting a new engine. What are you doing? And so this because, well, why do you have so many horses? Well, okay. Number one, and this is important, if you're trying to do, let's say you're trying to farm full-time, and you want to use horses. So there are times of the year when it's busier than others. You have times like now in the springtime of the year, there's more work than there are hours in a day for most of the day. Like when it's time to go, it's go time. Same with haying, same with so many things on the farm are like boom and bust. You have to be, it's like, non-stop go. And then there's times where, when you just putter around the shop because there's, nothing you can do. It's raining or it's, whatever. And there's usually lots to do in the shop, so there's no worries there. So why do you have so many horses? Well, there's times when you need to drive one horse. There's times when I need to drive two horses. There's times when I drive three horses. Times when I need to drive four horses, all at the same time. Sometimes I'll drive two horses in the morning, two horses in the afternoon. That way I have fresh horses. That's very common. And so you need to have power. It's power. It's all about power. The horse is a source of motive power, essentially. What you're doing is trying to replace mechanical horsepower with living horsepower. And there are no spare parts for horses. If you have a tractor and you get a flat tire, you peel the tire off, you take it into the tire shop, they fix it. An hour or two later, you're back on, you bolt the tire back on, and away you go. If you get a horse that comes up lame, that horse could be off for weeks, days, weeks, months. Anything can happen. Horses are not machines. Horses are living beings. They're living organisms, and they are just as we are. They have they get sick. They get injured. They have they need sick days. They have good days. They have bad days. Their emotional state. The horses are very emotional, very sensitive creatures, and the best horse can have a bad day, and it's just you just sometimes scratch your head, like it is what it is. Like you can't force them to have a good day. It's just like people, you can't force them to have a good day. Sometimes they're just off that day. I don't know, maybe they've got a little ache or a pain somewhere, so listen to what they're trying to tell you. You need to work with that. You have to be sensitive to it, and some people have that ability and some people don't. So they need time to rest and to heal. They can't be worked, regular shifts with non-stop. They need time, just like we do. If you work, let's say you're full on go for 6 or 7 days, and then by the end of that stretch, you're just like, I just need a day. I just need a day. Like I just need to vegetate. And horses are somewhat the same way. They're amazing what they're capable of. It's amazing what they are capable of. They will work so hard on seemingly so little sleep. You don't know when they sleep, and until you see them, when you live with horses, you see them. Of course, they do sleep, but they need time, just like we need time, and building strength, building muscle, building bone, building ligaments, and all of this stuff, it's all a process, and it's all a gradual, incremental thing. And so, why do I need so many horses? Well, sometimes I need that much power. And when I don't need that much power, it's nice to have a spare. If it's just a hobby, it doesn't matter. Oh well, I can't drive my horses today because one of the horses in my team has got a sore foot. Well, that's fine if it's just a hobby. But when it's do or die, you got to be able to give that horse its space to heal and recuperate, and the care and the time and the space. And you can take your spare horse and put it in, and then you can go on. So you need to have spares. You need to have a little more power than you need, because if you max out, if you're always running like your horse is right up to the limit 100% of the time, you're going to have more possibility of injury. They're going to get tired quicker. I'd rather have an extra horse in the hitch and make the work easy, and they can just kind of cruise all day without, laboring like they're, trying to move Mount Everest. So that's the first thing. Why do you have so many horses? Well, you need to match your power requirements to the size of your operation. So that's the number one thing. And you got to decide, is this a hobby or is this a full-time gig? So the next thing, once you have sorted out in your mind the why of horses and how many, you need infrastructure. The infrastructure. And to an outside observer, the infrastructure can look, on the one hand, simple and minimal, and on the other hand, it can seem very complex and overwhelming in a way. And when you first get into horses, it can sometimes seem, but what do I need? Like, I don't know, like, you look in a harness catalog or online, and there's endless varieties of harness and equipment, and what do you need? And so here's the thing that I try to do. It's a hard sell, but you try to encourage people to work with an experienced horseman. You try to say, could you take some time before you go and buy your own horses, and or heaven forbid, try to train a horse when you don't even know. Never driven a horse, and you want to buy and train a horse to drive, We'll learn together. Please don't. So try to work with an experienced teamster, an experienced horseman. And I do this, I offer lessons, workshops, people, if they want to come, drive somebody else's horses, quad horses, broke horses. They have all the harness, all the equipment, all of the little bits and pieces. There's just dozens and dozens and dozens of little things that you're going to need. Bits of knowledge, bits of tack, bits of hardware, just little things that, you got to go to the farm and settle in and be willing to apprentice and work and learn. And that you have to find someone who's willing to tell you and to explain and to show. And that's what I do. If someone comes to me, it's very hard to find people who are willing to invest the time to do this and to put in some fundamental sort of groundwork footings for their future life. We're a very instant society. People want to have things, click online and order up a team of horses ready-made, and some people have the money to buy horses ready-made, and I've never had the money to buy horses ready-made. I learned the hard way. Everything I've learned the hard way. I got a job when I was a teenager working on a draft horse farm, and I I started out learning how to shovel manure, and I learned how to harness, and I learned about all the bits and all the pieces and all the little parts of this puzzle that you have to put into place to find cohesion in this whole thing. Because if you just get a piece here and a piece there and a piece there, and you can't put all the pieces together, it just becomes chaos and disorder, and nothing works. And you go about everything about half-assed, and it's just, so you got to put the time in. So that's number one. You got to find a mentor, a tutor, someone to work with, and be willing to be humble enough to listen to what they say. You may disagree with them later. You may discover in the future that what the way they do things doesn't work for you or for your horses. Every horse is different. But at least get a baseline, a base layer, some footings in there that you can build on later on. But you need to get the base. So that's the number one thing. And then when you're going to think about what kind of work you want to do, what kind of, let's assuming you want to do this full-time or semi-full-time. Let's say you have a farm and you want to use your horses on the farm. Okay. Number one requirement for a farm horse, especially for a beginner, is dead calm. Dead calm. Sleepy. Sleepy horses. Horses that'll just stand and sigh and just let you, because when you're by yourself, and I'm by myself 99% of the time, when you're out in the middle of a field and you have a mechanical breakdown with the machinery, or you need to make an adjustment, or you need to get off, pick a stone, or something's gone wrong, you need to be able to put the lines down, take them around the handle. You need to be able to go back to whatever implement you're on, and you need to be able to get your wrenches out and get down and kneel in compromising situations. And if the horses lurch ahead and you're tangled up in the machine, you're trying to get nuts on and make adjustments, you need dead, calm horses. Old, tired horses are the best horses for beginners. And so you have to be realistic about your abilities. And if you go at this full piss and vinegar, young horses, green broke, harness is sketchy, you're just going to set yourself up for failure. It's hard enough to succeed at this with 35 years of experience. The practicalities. I'm not even getting into the economics of it, because the economics is terrible. But the logistics and the practicalities of working horses is what I'm talking about today. So when you start out, get a base, decide what you're going to do, figure out how many horses you need, what kind of horses you need. You want to budget for having more horsepower than you need. Every horse is going to complain if they're asked to work too hard. Every horse. No horses are going to work day in and day out at 100% capacity. It's not going to work. You're going to have injuries, you're going to have problems. And so you want to have more horses than you need, particularly when you're planning to work like all day, 6 days in a row. If you're going to take your horses and work 10-hour days from Monday to Saturday, you can't work them at 100%. You gotta work them at like 50% with spikes. There'll be spikes. Yep, that's no problem. But if you're gonna harness a team in the morning, work them for 4 or 5 hours, give them an hour off for noon, and work them for another 4 or 5 hours, you're not gonna be working them at 100% for those 10 hours or 8 hours. It isn't gonna work. They can't do it. They can't do it. not keep it up, you're going to have just issues. So you want to have more horses than you need. So that's sort of the basic outline. I don't want to discourage anybody from using horses, because I think there's nothing I'd sooner do than to work with horses. But you have to have a desire, and you have to have a passion for it. There's no way you can do this and not want to be around horses. You have to love being around horses. You want to be in their space and surrounded by them, and you have to love all the things about horses, the good and the bad and the ugly. Like, I enjoy grooming. There's nothing more satisfying to me, in a way, than when I'm harnessing up in the morning, than seeing the horses enjoy being groomed. It gives them some sort of tactile pleasure to be groomed, and they sigh, and you can see them relaxing, and it's something that I enjoy. It's just working with horses, whether it's just on the ground or whether it's driving them or even riding. I ride horses too. So that's one thing. And the next thing is you have to enjoy spending a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to work horses. If you have a stopwatch on yourself all the time, and you are always running late and always running behind, then horses are not for you. You need to be in a place in your life, at a stage in your life, where you are prepared to make and take as much time as it needs to do this, because horses don't follow the clock. They don't punch in to work and punch out. They take time. The way I work with my horses, let's say I'm working 4 horses, which is very normal for me in fieldwork situations, especially in tillage work, in spring work, and I'll work 4 horses, whether they're 4 abreast or 2 and 2, 4 up. I work 4 horses, and it takes me 10 minutes a horse to get from the time I get them from their stall and groom them and harness them and hitch them, for me to take 4 horses from the field or their stall and get them ready to go and take the lines in my hand and get ready to head out the gate. It's 10 minutes a horse. And if you're driving a team, you're 20 minutes. If you're driving 4, you're 40 minutes. If you're driving 6, you're an hour. It just takes that long. It takes me that long. I'm working by myself, and that's with cooperative, quiet horses, who are used to the drill. They basically, they know how to harness themselves almost. I got to do the work, but they're good. If you got young horses or horses you're breaking or green horses, then you can double that sometimes, because you got to go extra slow. You can't just, throw the harness on and do it up, and so it takes time. And then you got 40 minutes in the morning. Then it takes me about at noontime coming back, leave the harness on for lunch, but you got to unhitch. You got to take the lines off. You got to unhitch. So it's going to take you 10-15 minutes to get the horses back in their stalls, in their lunch. And you got to give them their feed and drinks. And then it's going to take you another probably 15 minutes to get back, hitched back up again. Get their bridles back on, get them the lines back hooked up, and get them the eveners hooked back up, and everything back up, and then you're back out the field. So you got a, let's say, 45 minutes in the morning, and you got a half an hour noon time, plus the hour it takes them to eat their dinner and have a rest and drink. And then you get the same, another 15-20 minutes at the end of the day and the end of the afternoon, and you got to take it all. So you're looking the better part of an hour and a half of, quote, wasted time. And if you look at, if you consider that to be wasted time, Anytime you're not, covering ground in the field, getting work done, well then horses are not for you because it takes time. There's ancillary duties, peripheral things that are not really peripheral, but they revolve around the periphery of the working horses. So there's the driving horses in the field, which is, probably 80% of the job. And that's a skill which most people can figure out. That's the easy part. Sitting in the seat, holding the lines, driving the horses. Even when you're driving like a 4-up or something, most people can figure that out. And that's the part they want to learn. That's the exciting part, It's the fun part. It's everything else. It's knowing how to harness, and it's knowing how to hitch and how to adjust your lines. Before you even pick up the lines, you got to get them set. And it's all learned very very slowly. It's something that I'm still learning. Every time I work with horses, I learn something new, really. And so it's kind of one of these deals where you gotta have patience with yourself, and you gotta have even more patience with your horses and with the machinery. Sometimes, if you're pulling an implement, you have to have it adjusted. Everything has to work together to just roll along and just get it. And it's when everything is working right, there is no better feeling in the world to be, let's say you're driving 4 horses and you're doing field work, and the horses are running along just light contact, one hand, you've got 4 horses working straight as an arrow, and whatever you're pulling is working just to a T, and the work is getting done, and the horses can see the work getting done, and they're, it's a very satisfying thing, more so than driving a tractor. Tractors are stupid things. They cannot see, they cannot do, they cannot understand, and you cannot. There's no kinship with them. They're not a living being. They're a dead thing. So, anyways, that's it for now. I just wanted to get this brief introduction, not to discourage anyone from undertaking working with horses, draft horses. I'm talking about draft horses. I'm leaving the carriage driving and the saddle horse for other people. Some of the principles also apply, but I'm thinking of working horses, heavy horses, working horses, draft horses. And so I would encourage anyone who's trying to sort these things out in their mind, come and see. I offer lessons. I offer workshops. If I have more than 1 or 2 people, we can make a couple day of it. If you've never experienced horses, it's the best thing to do. Is go and come and see. Just experience what there is to experience, and see for yourself. And then you may decide, it's not what I thought. Or you may be, like me, when I had no real exposure to draft horses when I took a job working for this guy. But as soon as I got working there, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is what I'm going to do. I was just a boy, and yet I got exposed to this, and it just triggered something in my mind, and I'm like, I was born 100 years too late. It's just, I am born in the wrong era. My skills are not hardly marketable. This this day and age, I have a skill set that is obsolete, but I love doing it, and that's why I do it. I could just use tractors in the bush, on the farm, But if I had to just use, if I couldn't use horses, I wouldn't do it, because it's not that enjoyable work. It's hard work. It's whether you use tractors or, and ask any farmer, you know, whether they use tractors or not. It's hard work. But I choose to do it the way I do it because I want to. There are philosophical reasons why I do it. There are even spiritual reasons why I do it. The peacefulness and the quiet of working, for the most, you know, unless you're using something with an engine. But when you're out in the field working horses, there is a bond that forms between you and your horses and the land and the world around you and nature. You know, you see things and you pick up on things, and there is an intuitiveness to it that seems to, in my mind, add value to life that just sitting on a tractor seat, listening to the roar of the diesel engine, you know, can't do. So I'm going to sign out for now and try to get this posted up. So again, take care.